fly.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Yom Tov, good news from Israel and the Jewish niche. There is no sun, no rainbow over here, but I'm bringing you this week's 5 good news, and this is gonna be a very short and quick episode. I've been feeling very sick for the last couple of days, so I was doing the bare minimum. But if anything I've learned in life is that consistency is key. So here I am fighting my sickness and doing what I promised. So good news number one this week is something that didn't happen this week or last week, but maybe not many of you know. And this is the song that I put in the beginning, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So not many people know actually that Somewhere Over the Rainbow, even though it was written for the Wizard of Oz, it has heavy Jewish roots. And I'm so gonna read the names because I really suck at names, remembering names. Nobody's perfect after all. So it was written by Yip Harburg. His official name was Isidor Horkberg, and Harold Hyman Arlen. So they are Russian Jewish immigrants to the States. They were Yiddish speaking. Oh, shine, shine. So they wrote this song, and it is about the pogroms and the Holocaust. So this song, such as the title entails, is really for dreamers, for people who believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that the darkness is always followed by something beautiful. And really, in light of the current happenings and the fact that on Monday it's Yom HaShoah, I think this is just a good news to remember that nothing is forever, everything needs to pass and everything needs to end. So an interesting fact about this song that it was written just 9 years before Israel was created or recreated, as you want to frame it. And the song it was about Israel, so a land that is a promised land. It was not about America, it was about Israel. So if today is not a really good day for you, or your mood is, on an emotional roller coaster because it's really getting harder and harder to be at home and be quarantined, just put on Somewhere Over the Rainbow and maybe it's gonna help your mood. It does help mine. News number two this week comes from Ashkelon, a city from Israel, where there were an elderly couple who are married for 69 years. Oh my God, this is something that's not going to happen with me, obviously. So, a couple aged 87 and 90 recovered from COVID 19, and this is a true life story. So, the husband was the first one who got into hospital, and actually, he was in a very bad shape. He had to go onto ventilators and need help with the breathing. And then a couple of days later, his wife ended up in hospital as well. She recovered pretty quickly, but refused to leave the hospital, saying, I love him. He is my husband. I lived my whole life with him. I'm not leaving this hospital without him. Talk about women persistence. So eventually, they both recovered and left the hospital together. And I think this is justly good news from this week. News number three this week comes from the Kinneret, so the Sea of Galilee. And I remember when I went there, I was so sunburned. Also, the place where I first ate edamame. So, again, some facts. The Kinneret is the second largest lake on the earth, and it is really the major source of water for Israel, something that is definitely a scarcity for the Holy Land. So since 1992, this is the first time that the Kinneret is filling up. And it's important, as I said, it's really the major source of water for Israel, but it also, once it reaches a certain point, the water flows into the Jordan water that leads to the Dead Sea, which is literally dying. This kind of information are not really my second nature to care for. We all have our own interests, so don't judge me for that, but I'm not into environmental updates. But this news was something that I think it's really worth mentioning because without water, we just cannot exist. And Israel is really, really dependent on this kind of water source. And if it really helps the Dead Sea in any way, then I'm all for it because it would be really, really sad to see that sea literally die. Good news number four comes from Tel Aviv, and here is a short clip of an introduction. So the guy in the video is Ilan Hazam, and he started to deliver cookies through a drone. So I reached out to him and I asked how did the idea come and why is he doing what he's doing. So apparently he's a foodie by hobby and he really enjoys baking. one of his favorite cookies that's inspired by the Levan Bakery in New York City. Oh yeah, that's a good one. When Israel and Tel Aviv got under the quarantine regulation and everyone was just stuck at home, he started to bake, and eventually he found the method of delivery through drones. So just in brackets, I wish that my second neighbor from here would use drone for this as opposed to actually spying on me and my family. Yes, I had a police case during the last couple of days because there's a drone flying over our garden and literally invading into our privacy, but that's a whole different story. So there's a guy who finds that drones could be used for something good, and there's a guy who feels that drone is just to, I don't know, see me in bikini. So Ilan is baking and delivering these cookies to his friends' apartments, and I think this is just a heartwarming, lovely story and the best use of your time. So kol hakavod, Ilan. Really, next time I'm in Tel Aviv, I tell you my address and you can deliver me the batch. Good news number 5 this week was definitely Fauda 3. I'm sure that Fauda doesn't need any introduction to anyone, but you might not know that finally the season 3 is up on Netflix, so finally English speakers can enjoy it as well. Needless to say, I pretty much watched the whole show in 2 days. Let me remind you that I was sick, so that was kind of like easy. I love the show, and again, I'm not sure how many people actually dig into the behind the scene, but there is a unit that really exists, and they are called the Mr. Avarim. So they are the real Fauda guys, and I think the show is super important for so many reasons, and many journalists have written about it. It is also controversial in a way, if you ask me. Like in the first time, I was really having a hard time to understand why they humanize terrorists the way they do. But eventually, it all goes down to a human level. I mean, we are all human beings. We fight for what we believe in. The fact that I can absolutely disagree with the choice of a weapon that Hamas or people in the West Bank are using, that's a whole different ballgame. But I think the show is very important in terms of like a cross-cultural understanding. So initiate that. It also sheds light on the complexity of the situation. As far as I know, people from Turkey and even from the Arab lands are writing to the producers that they have a different understanding of IDF based on the show because they understood, that they are also just humans. So we both are getting a more humanized side of the conflict. On the other hand, we know that not everybody was happy with the show. So BDS, the boycott movement against Israel definitely wasn't happy. And they asked Netflix not to show the show and just to cancel it. Thanks God it didn't happen. I mean, after all, BDS have a big mouth, but less of a success that they claim. I remind you that even Hamas likes the show. I'm not really sure whether it's a good benchmark for us, but well. And such as each week, I give you a 5+1 good news. And this is something that is hard for my ego to share, but I want to share with you because I think we also need to take credit for our work. So this week, I've been named among the 70 international people who are game changers in Israel's life. So I really want to give a shout out to you guys because without you, my work would not be known. And also just for you to know that I take it as a privilege, but I also take it with a huge responsibility because, saying something that other people will listen to is actually a responsibility that I don't take for granted, and I'm not trying to ever misuse it. So thank you very much, and congratulations for everybody else named on that list. There are some wonderful people. So being on that list as a Hungarian non-Jewish person, it was just like really, really humbling. Thank you everyone again for joining me this week. It was a less cheeky, less flirty, less real me kind of video, but I'm really feeling sick, but I just wanted to do what I promised. So I'm gonna go back to bed, grab some tea and aspirin, and hopefully I see you next week with the next top 5 good news from the Jewish Israeli niche. Yom Tov, Shavua Tov. Have a fantastic week. Remember, somewhere over the rainbow, there is a blue sky.